Welcome to the City of Detroit's Black History Month celebration, as curated by the Office of Arts, Culture, and Entrepreneurship and Detroit Media. Please join us here on Channel 22 at 7 p.m. each weeknight and on the city's YouTube page and the Detroit Ace page on Facebook to watch special programs, see amazing performances, and learn about Detroit's powerful Black history. I'm Rochelle Riley, Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Detroit, and I am so very proud to be here today with Jonathan Harris, who is one of my favorite young artists in Detroit and in Michigan and in America. He has changed the world with a single painting, although I want to start by saying it's not his first painting. And the first painting that I'm aware of was when I met him in April of 2020, and we were faced with the pandemic, and Jonathan called my office and said, I'd like to donate some art to help artists. And he helped, as a part of his effort, raise $75,000 to give $500 rapid relief grants to artists who, quite frankly, were not making any money. So that's how I remember you. That lets me know how much you care about people. So I want to start by having you talk a little bit about your background, and then we're going to meet the amazing, amazing relative that you have here with us.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Jonathan Harris. I'm an artist from the city of Detroit. Went to school in Detroit, high school in Detroit. I went to Detroit School for the Fine and Performing Arts. Then I went to college at Henry Ford Community College and Oakland University. My work is emotive. It is centered around expressing how Black people feel about life in America and life in the world, and that's through my lens as a Black man in America.
That's fantastic. And Cornelius?
My name is Cornelius Godfrey. I'm Jonathan's brother-in-law. I had the pleasure of marrying his sister. I also serve as the supervisor of educational equity, inclusion, and community relationships for Troy School District.
And I think it's so important that we have an emotive artist and an educator to talk about what, quite frankly, is a crisis in our country right now. So I want to start with critical race theory, because this painting literally has been around the world. Everybody I know has got a copy. We were just in Broadway for Detroit on Broadway, where we celebrated Dominique Morisseau and her play Skeleton Crew, and Mayor Mike Duggan made his Broadway debut by speaking before the curtain rose on the play and giving her a gift, and the gift was a print of this painting. That's how widespread you're going everywhere. So let's talk a little bit about how you paint, how you decide what to paint before we talk about this particular painting.
Well, when I decide to paint, I'm thinking about what moves me, like what am I really passionate about, and I started to read things and see things more about critical race theory and the idea that it would be like certain teachings would be pulled out of schools and certain languages and things like that. So I just wanted something to document this time and to show people where the world could be headed in the future. Like this painting is based in the future, actually.
And Cornelius, we were talking about some of the impact, of something like this. You're in the school district, and quite frankly, what's happening with our kids is there's this effort to literally disappear a whole culture. Let's just continue. It's not an effort. It's been going on for 150 years, but now it's very blatant. How is this happening?
Well, at first, it can be easy to assume that this is really just based on people who want to, how they defend their children and protect them from things that they think might be too difficult for them to learn. And I appreciate that there are some parents who really have that centered as their goal and their hope. But we're not going to play like this is not also being fueled by a very strong political force to attack public schooling in general and make it a private endeavor to line the pockets of political and powerful elites. So that's my interpretation. And I don't necessarily have to deal with that aspect. I really like to be able to engage with community members and talk through what some of those fears might be. Because ultimately, I think the genius of what Jonathan's painting does is it bypasses some of the rhetoric and the faulty logic and forces people to look at what actually might be the outcome of what they're attempting to do. And I think it's a stark contrast to what they say their intentions are.
Well, the old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And quite frankly, this picture has tens and thousands of words, because all of that rhetoric, all of that stuff that people are doing, probably the worst part of it is trying to equate critical race theory with Black history. So let's just talk about not teaching critical race theory in public schools as if that was ever the goal. and use that to not teach Black history. And that's a part of what the problem is now. So I want to ask both of you, when did you start to learn about Black history, about American history that was about Black folks? Wow.
I mean, we learned it, but it was a not a very honest portrayal of history as it was taught. I had to go out and seek it myself for the most part, and that was during my college years. So had I known certain things when I was younger, I would have just went through life more aware of certain things and been able to be more honest about certain things growing up.
And what about you, Cornelius?
Yeah, and I want to be fair because I had a similar experience as Jonathan, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that, our parents and our church communities and our neighbors and our family members, they did the best they could, but ultimately, a lot of this knowledge was hidden from them as well. So a lot of my learning did happen during my years in undergrad at Eastern Michigan, where, professors like Clovis Sims and Melvin Peters and Victor Okafor, really helped me develop a lens for understanding history, and then a ability to leverage research skills to find out things that are not readily available.
Well, I can tell you I was born radical, so we learned a lot early, and I think the challenge for us was trying to make sure that we fit that into where we were going. It got worse and worse each passing year. We started with, of course, Black teachers. I grew up in a small North Carolina town, and I had Black teachers who made sure that that's what we did. That wasn't what everybody was taught, and the parents who didn't want their kids to learn that, they created their own academies. People talk about charter schools now. Man, people would just set up school in a house, call it an academy, and take the white kids away from the Black kids because they just did not want them to think about what that might look like or feel something about that. I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I studied journalism and white people. And I can tell you right now, if we had made sure that we taught a complete history so that white people were forced to learn about Black history, the way Black people have been forced to learn the whitewashed history, we would probably get along better because you wouldn't have such a sense of what you think you know. And that's that all Black children are descendants of the enslaved, and that's about the best they can do. And all white people are the people who founded the country, which was never true. But Jonathan, I want to talk a little bit about process because you care deeply. You were looking at this battle for the education of children and the education of parents. And people have to remember, if you've got racists who are teaching children, they grow up to be racists who teach children, who grow up to be racists who teach children. As you started to think about critical race theory and you looked at a blank canvas, what was the first thing that you did? And then what was the first thing that you painted?
The first thing that I did was I started to try to think of a way to capture people's attention, not just people who are into art, but people who not really in art, just casual people, somebody that just walked past somewhere and had to turn their head, keep walking and turn their head back again. And so that's why I selected figures that I believe that were known across the world, not just by African-American people, but by white people, Asian people, all different cultures and races. So, and then I started with this figure down in the left-hand corner that represents America, which is a Caucasian man rolling white paint over those African-American figures. And the white paint, it takes up more than half of the actual painting. And I knew that would probably really capture a lot of people's attention. So that's what I started at and probably most proud of.
And I love the fact that you made Harriet Tubman in black and white to represent that this has been going on for a while, that was that era that she was in. When did you first know the impact of the painting?
I first found out when a guy from my church had tagged me in a post on Facebook, and he said, hey, you should check this out. And I checked it out, and it was like, I believe it was the 98% on Facebook, with probably like 6 million followers, and it was just a lot of retweets and comments, and people were just having discussions. And I was just like, oh man, this might really be something, if people having discussion. So then I searched my name on Twitter. I didn't even have a Twitter. I searched my name on Twitter.
Wait, let me make sure. You said you didn't even have a Twitter?
I didn't even have a Twitter.
Okay.
Not a real Twitter. So I got on, started searching my name, and I was just like, people, they really care about this. This might be something. So I created a Twitter that night. and commented under those comments said, "Hey, I'm Jonathan Harrison." Now I'm able to actually touch the people and have conversations with people all across the world, and they let me know how they feel and how it helped them and how it resonates with them, and not just people of color, like just people of all colors and races.
Now, you started out with one Twitter follower. How many do you have now?
I believe it's like really close to 5,000, but I'm really still not as active on there. I'm more active on Instagram and Facebook.
That's an age thing. That's okay. Cornelius, as we continue to look at this battle, and we have to fight it every way possible, how much of that battle is going to have to be done with art, and how much with words, and how much with any other type of action? I mean, this may be the front line, but what is the way to get to people?
All the ways. What I appreciate about the levels of genius in my brother's work is that it bypasses some of those filters, because visual art grabs your attention and all of a sudden you're engaging before you recognize what it's doing and how it's moving thoughts in your mind. And I really appreciate, even now, just thinking about the longer you look at a painting like this, the more you see, like, who else is being covered? Who else is under there? What other figures have we already been denied access to because of what is continuing, what we're seeing? But I think there's lots of ways, as a person in the academic realm, a lot of what I do involves data. So I'm happy to share with people exactly the impact that a sense of well-being and belonging has on student learning, how disproportionately Black and brown students are impacted by things like suspensions and often not represented in advanced placement classes that offer those really robust and rigorous academic experiences. And in that way, I feel like I'm able to make the case that our education really does have to reflect all of our learners. And it has to reflect the truth. It has to reflect what has really happened in this country, because we don't want our students to leave our systems and go make faulty assumptions based on the reality that they see. Because you can look at our communities, you can look at the differences between one neighborhood and another, and without some historical context, you come up with all the wrong answers about how it got this way.
And we spent 150 years without context. We literally, okay, there was this sort of bad thing that happened for a while, and then you go through life, and then all of a sudden there's a civil rights movement without explaining why there was a civil rights movement, and then everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And we have allowed that for all of this time. America was founded on a lie. A Declaration of Independence that literally said all men are created equal, which was not true. And then we literally have a constitution that we've amended more than 24 times because it was so flawed. Not because of just the changes, and some of it was just changes in the way we live, but some of it's because they knew what was wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just like suffrage, where they talk about how women got the right to vote in 1920. No, my mom got the right to vote in 1965. That's right. Go on, Fannie Lou Hamer. So I'm trying to figure out where that intersection of art and education and social justice. I mean, Jonathan, I have to ask you, now that you've done something like this, and I'm so glad you mentioned the paint, because not immediately, because first of all, I saw it and had to stand straight up. But then I wondered, who's under here? Who's already gotten painted over? And it was just stunning to me. But at this intersection of art and education and social justice, because you care about people, and I know how much you care about people, do you see this now as a part of your role as an artist? Has it always been a part, or is it going to be more so because of the impact you had with this painting?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, it always has not been a part. I started off painting celebrities, and it was just really flat and no emotion. And then I met Henry Harper. He's head of the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. He took me under his wing, and he basically took me to different museums and galleries and said, look at the work that's on the wall. That's the work that's of the time. If you really want to be an artist, then that's what you have to do. So I went back in my cave and thought about, what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about Black people. I'm passionate about peace, love, and happiness. And so I believe that art is very important with, like you say, history. You got people like Norman Rockwell, who painted the famous image of Ruby Bridges walking out of William Frantz Elementary. And that's just very important. Like, that type of history, it can be covered up. It's not that long ago. I believe that was 1963. That's my dad's life. He's seen that, and Like just certain things like that, I think is really important to be shown. So I really just wanted something to actually just reflect the time.
One of my favorite pictures that has been floating since this whole discussion about critical race theory was there was a picture of Ruby Bridges. Powerful little kid. I love that. I love that look. I love that child. I love how she was dressed. And somebody wrote, "If your child is uncomfortable learning about this, imagine how she felt having to go through this."
Yep.
And we don't think about that. And that's because, quite frankly, people don't always think about Black people as people. It's like, okay, there's the other. Nicole Hannah-Jones in the foreword to my book, The Burden, said Congress worked to remove the badges of slavery so that you could not continue to do all of those things that were done to Black people, but they weren't removed, not in 1860, not in 1960, not now. She wrote something so brilliant. She said, the sin, the original sin, and it's a sin that was visited upon us, but the worst thing is that we, Black people, remind America of all that America is not. Every time people are looking at us, it's like they're reminded of what they did, of what happened, and they, as in the leaders of the past. Every time somebody talks about reparations, nobody's asked anybody to go get their wallet or go get their checkbook. That was an American thing. That was a government thing, a system thing. But I want to go back to the question about where do you go now? Because does this change who you are? Does this mean you're going to continue to do what you already decided to do, which was to do what Henry Harper, who I love, told you to do?
Oh no, this is where I'm going to continue to go. This is where my work has been for the past year, just about current events and the Black experience in America, and that's where it's going to continue to go. I was just thinking the other day, I have so many ideas and things that I want to work on. I wish I had 2 more arms just to get it done. So, but I'm really excited to, just even to show the world, where my head is at, and what and how I feel. I'm really excited to show the world what's next.
That's awesome. And Cornelius, how do we make sure that kids, white kids, Black kids, yellow kids, red kids, see this and understand what they're looking at and try to fight those who are above them who would hide it from them?
Yeah. First, I think it's important to orient Jonathan's work in the trajectory of Black art and joy and expression that has helped propel us to where we are now. So I think about poets like Phyllis Wheatley and Amiri Baraka and Nikki Giovanni. Think about, Gordon Parks and, all the folks who were using their mediums, whatever they were, to advance the work of liberation. I think it's important that they recognize that art has a part to play, but community activism also has a part to play. Showing up at school board meetings to show support for work that your school district is doing, or enthusiasm for the work that they need to start. Like that has a part to play too. We exercise a lot at the voting booth, but we also exercise a lot at the kitchen table when we're talking to our children and giving them the legacy that's been hopefully handed to us. And if it hasn't, trying to repair some of the harm from the information that was kept from us.
I love that phrase, repairing harm. When somebody was talking to me about reparations, I said, don't use the word reparations. That's the trigger. Talk about repairing. And I used to talk about the invoice that was owed to my grandfather, who was the grandson of a slave. And this enslaved person was somebody I had to go to the North Carolina State Archives to find in the will of a white attorney listed with property and how much he was worth. And just the moment of seeing that, I know how Alex Haley felt now, except that was as far back as I could go. So we're not talking just about the theft of identity. We're talking about a theft of years of accomplishment, going from, what Drake said, we started at the bottom, now we're here. And we don't even celebrate that because in some cases, we don't want to go back on the journey, but in other cases, people don't want to be reminded of how far we had to come. So I am so, so proud of you, Jonathan, for what you've done. I'm dying to know what some of those next ideas are, but I don't want to cheat and make you speak to one until you're ready. But do you have any idea where you're headed next?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
tell me. Tell me a little bit.
I don't want to give it away, but it's still the Black experience, and it's not even just. So I always said I would never paint Caucasian people because that's not my. I didn't, I'm Black. The same way Caucasian people may paint Black celebrities. I said I never paint a white celebrity, but I have some stories to tell about Caucasian people as well.
Okay, watch out now.
With Black people in it, but more so from the Caucasian point of view, I say that.
Well, What's amazing about this is, first of all, this amazing history, but this painting is also about this guy, because we know who this guy is. So yes, whatever that story is that you're about to tell, we're going to be thrilled about it. I want to thank both of you so much for joining us for this amazing continuation of our celebration and commemoration of Black history. What we've done is do 22 days of just necessary content for Detroiters and all of those who watch us on YouTube and online. Things that you need to know, things that we want you to understand, things that will make you a better person because you see us as better people. So I so appreciate that. You can watch this conversation and all of our coverage on Detroit Channel 22, on the City of Detroit's YouTube page, on the City of Detroit's Facebook page. And if you follow me on Twitter at Rochelle Riley, I write about Jonathan all the time. I constantly am praising him. I don't want him to go to the bathroom without people knowing about it, because I think that what you've done is created a path for yourself to be one of those folks that people will look back and say, this is somebody who changed the trajectory of what people were thinking. And you're not going to do it just with a single painting, but with this single painting, you have started that conversation in a way that it wasn't happening. So I thank you so much. You've been listening to Jonathan Harris and Cornelius Godfrey. I want to make sure I say it right, because Godfrey Cambridge used to be one of my favorite people from back in the day. Nobody knows that. But Cornelius Godfrey, educator, activist, powerful spokesperson, and Jonathan Harris, who is one of the best artists in America.
Thank you.
Thank you.